my name is Ella, and in this video I want to talk about symbolism of tarot cards and describe two cards, the Magician and the Fool. I'll compare them, I'll compare their symbolism, their meanings, and I'll try to explain how the symbols are directly related to the meanings of the cards. As soon as you know the combination of all the symbols of a particular card, you will understand the meaning in a lot more depth. As I said before, tarot is fully based on symbolism. Each card contains a ton of symbols, and each little thing means something. Is it a man or a woman on the card? What do they wear? What are the colors around them? Is it a static posture or is a person moving? It all changes the meaning of the card, and it all gives to each card a slightly different feeling. Because as I said in the previous video, as I said before, behind each card there is a particular type of energy. Our job as tarot readers is to read through this type of energy and apply this to the situation of the client that they came with, that they're asking us about. As I said, I'll describe two major arcana as well as their symbols and then their meanings. And then I'll talk a little bit about the comparison of the two cards and how we can read through the meaning of each of the cards once we know every single symbol that it contains. The interpretation and the depiction of tarot symbols may change from school to school, from deck to deck, and from one tarot reader to another. I use the symbols and the meanings of French school of tarot created by Papus in the interpretation of my Russian tarot teacher Iset Kotelnikova. I personally find these symbols to be precise and deep. I also find a lot of logical and clear connections between the symbols and the meaning of the cards in this particular interpretation. Let's start with the Magician. On the Magician card, we see a man with his right hand raised and the left hand pointing down. The Magician, what he does, he asks for an idea from the divine plane, and he then channels this idea down to the physical world. The man is wearing a white robe, which is a symbol of his pure intentions, and a belt. A belt helps the Magician stay focused and keep the emotions sort of quiet. The man is wearing a cross, which is a representation of the material world. He is also wearing the Ouroboros band on his head, which symbolizes the autonomy of the Magician. Above his head, we can see an eternity sign, which represents the astral perfection. The man is holding a wand, which means he will begin implementing the divine idea as soon as he gets it. And there is also a snake that entwines the wand, which is a symbol of wisdom. On the top of the wand we see a bright point of light, which is basically the point of God, and the pyramid under it. So what it tells us is that the idea of the Magician comes from God and finds the creative way down to the material plane. In front of the Magician we see a table with a cup, a sword, and a pentacle. The ideas brought to us by the Magician will trigger the emotional reaction in us, they will bring food for thought, and they will also be accompanied by a flow of the favorable circumstances. Now the question is, what do we get as the result of combining all of the symbols together? The Magician brings to us an idea that has all the necessary components for its implementation. Moreover, this idea makes us feel excited. We start thinking about it, we get inspired by this idea. We also have the opportunities to make it happen, and we have luck on our side. Moreover, this is a pure idea. It does not come out of our fears or anxieties. We have pure intentions once we get the idea of the Magician. And finally, the implementation of this idea, the realization of this idea, will make the material world a better place, a lot better or a slightly better place. That depends on the size of the idea that the Magician brings to us. This was the Magician. Now let's take a look at the Fool. In this card we see a guy walking towards a cliff with a smile on his face and his eyes wide open. He's proudly wearing simple clothes that is torn in some places. He's also wearing a jester's cap, which makes him look weird for the society. He's carrying a small sack with various random objects that help him travel around the world. They turn to be useful at the most unexpected times. He has a staff in his right hand, which symbolizes life experience. But, unlike the hermit, for example, he doesn't lean on it, which means he doesn't rely on it. He doesn't rely on his life experience. The fool is walking towards the ledge, but we can assume it's a cliff. There is no further path to walk on. Under the cliff, there is a crocodile, which is a symbol of rational fears that might appear on the path of the fool. The dog is biting the man's leg in an attempt to hold him back. The dog symbolizes the circle of close people who might see the dangers of the chosen path and prevent the fool from walking into troubles. Interestingly, what we see is that the fool doesn't care neither about the crocodile nor about the dog. He is ready to make the final step towards the unknown. The sky in front of the fool is bright, which gives us the idea that the final step is actually good for the fool, and it brings him bright future. The meaning of the card comes from the combination of all the symbols. The Fool brings to us an unusual opportunity or an extraordinary idea. This idea or this opportunity seems very odd for other people, for the society around us. However, it is extremely inspiring and interesting for us. The main struggle for an individual who got the Fool in their spread is that in order to make this idea come true, they'll have to keep this state of a fearless, powerful, pure individual, because it's this particular internal state that opens up new universes for the Fool. It's this internal state that makes anything possible, that the cliff becomes a jump into new reality. But it's only possible in this particular state, and this is sort of hard. It makes the Fool a positive card. It's definitely a positive card, but it's hard to make it. It's hard to enter this new reality. I mean, it's challenging. Let's put it this way. It's not necessarily hard, but it's challenging. Although these are very short and simplified descriptions of the two cards, you can see how the symbols are directly related with the meanings of each of the two cards. But of course, there are many little nuances to both of these cards, just like to any other card in a tarot deck. It is a lot of knowledge that has to be gathered in order to understand how to interpret each of the cards properly in different spreads. Now let's compare these two cards and see how different they look and feel. Now here they are, the Magician on the left and the Fool on the right. They are both men, they are both standing, they both describe some sort of positive, helpful ideas or opportunities. But how different these ideas are. The Magician is focused. He's rather serious, he's confident. He is very realistic as he is connected to the material world. He is concentrated on transferring the idea from the divine plane to the physical plane. He is the one who gets the ideas that are most helpful in the current situation, considering the internal and the external resources an individual has. The Fool, on the other hand, he's careless, he's brave, happy, self-centered in a good way. He doesn't see anything around him, he just decides to walk towards the bright sky and believes with his whole heart that he will be fine no matter what, that his ideas will take him to the best place just because he's the co-creator of this world. He'll close his eyes, and once he opens them, the new world will just appear before him. There is no doubt, which is exactly why it becomes possible for him. Here you can see how different the two energies are and how different the symbolism behind each of the cards is. I personally find it fascinating to compare this symbolism, how you see that the Fool is a moving person, the Magician has a slight little tiny movement, but the main focus of him is inside. He's transferring this idea. He's like a channel. He's channeling the idea from the divine to the material plane. The Fool, divine material, he doesn't care. It's him that matters. It's my universe, it's my world. I can create it. I'm a part of this world, which gives me the power to do anything that I want. And whatever comes to my mind, it is possible. It's a very different energy, and it's very interesting to compare it and see how each symbol, how each tiny little detail adds to this meaning and gives it more color, gives the meaning more shades, making it deeper, making it more saturated. It's the same principle that lies behind all the other cards. Once you know all the symbols, their meanings, and the combinations of these symbols, you know the meaning of the card, and therefore you know what type of energy stands behind each of the cards of a tarot deck. What you then have is a deck full of symbols. Each card contains a different combination, a different set of symbols. And each card describes a different type of energy. So what you do as a tarot reader is, once you have a spread with all these different symbols in front of you, you read through these types of energies and apply them to the situation of the client. And basically that gives us an idea that cards can describe any situation. It's like a book of life. You literally can describe anything. How you feel, how another person feels, what are the relationships between two people, what's happening at a workplace. You can describe anything. That's what tarot does. It describes certain situations through the prism of different languages by showing its symbols to a tarot reader. And a tarot reader, our task is to read the symbols correctly and apply those symbols to the situation of the client. Symbolism in tarot is a long topic. The symbols differ from school to school. The connotation of these symbols also differs from school to school, and sometimes from reader to reader within one school. It doesn't necessarily make it problematic, I wouldn't say so, but you need to be cautious of that. So once you get your tarot deck, you need to know which school it was created by, like the symbolism of which school do you see in your cards, because depending on its symbolism, the meanings will slightly differ again from school to school. So pay attention to the symbols that you have on your tarot deck. Use the meanings and the connotations of the symbols that your school uses. Try to feel whether it fits or not. Try to sense the logic behind each symbol, whether it fits or not, and eventually you'll be able to read very well. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully see you soon. Bye!